Start here.
You're listening to The Coach Show with Coach Banks, Coach Swanson, Coach Kozlerich, and Coach Doherty on the Coaching Culture and Athletics Radio Broadcast Network. Sit back and enjoy the show. The views and opinions discussed in this podcast are not necessarily the opinion of the host or the Coach Show on the Coaching Culture and Athletics Radio Broadcast Network. Let's get it done.
Hey, everybody. You know what? It feels like it's been a month, but it's only been, a few weeks here. Since we did episode 1, season 2, we're gonna fire away here this evening. I wanted to say this afternoon, but it's this evening. And tonight we're going to discuss here in show 1, 2 for the Road Sunday. I've got Brad Irwin on. And not only is he a former Centerville Big Red alum, but I had him in class a few years back, as a freshman. And, tonight we're going to discuss a lot of things here. A lot of, how wrestling, number one, how wrestling saved Brad's life, as well as, the highs and lows that is wrestling, and what does it take to be a Division I wrestler. Brad, hey, man, welcome to the hot seat, Coaching Culture and Athletics. I'm proud to have you, buddy.
Man, I'm happy to be here.
And I'm telling you what, Brad, back, as a freshman, I'm here to tell you that he was not a student that could sit still, and I just knew, and I coached him in football for 1 year. He only got to experience the Banks Native for 1 year. So, hey, Brad, tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing right now, because right now, we're talking about Appalachian State, Division I wrestling. And you're 141, and you just coming off a pretty huge match over this past weekend.
Yeah, so right now I'm a redshirt senior, so I'm in my 5th year at App State. But I came here, I actually transferred here 3 years ago. I went to 2 different schools before. Probably didn't know what I wanted, honestly. I wish I would have took a little bit more a detailed approach to my recruiting. I didn't. You did a lackadaisical approach to it, and kind of was all over the place, and it kind of just wasn't. Finally, I found a fit with App State, and I've been here ever since. Majoring in finance and banking right now. It's a tough major here. Our business school is a very highly accredited program, and definitely finance and banking and accounting are the top 2 of our major programs that have real high levels. We get jobs with high-level banks, with Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, stuff like that. And that's, I went into my business advisor. First thing I said was, what's the hardest business major we got? She said, finance and banking. I said, all right, I'm going to do it.
Now I'm going to jump in there, Brad, because, wrestling is a pretty doggone tough sport, especially Division I wrestling. And how did wrestling get you to that point to where you're going to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go after the toughest major here, and I'm going to let it fly?
It's about me being disciplined, and I think that just with my wrestling background, it's more so just working toward want something, working for what you want. You get what you earn. Having that mentality is what it was like. You know what? If I have this, I'm going to be different one day in the future when I apply for a job than someone who maybe just had a management degree or just a business administration degree. I kind of want to separate myself in that aspect. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. Went full in. It's been tough. School's been not easy with it, but getting it done. So
yeah, and I'm super proud of you. Hats off. Now, wrestling itself has changed who you are. obviously, it's created this, this hard work ethic, this, that, and the other. But it's been a tough road though for you, right? I mean, how many times in your wrestling career, because you have transferred several times, how many times in your wrestling career or your collegiate career were you thinking, man, I don't know whether I'm going to make it? You're at that quit mode, which I know that Brad Irwin's not going to quit.
I've had doubt about a few times in this, and that's just you. That kind of like worried me about some things about my first, like when I knew like the people I was around was going to help me accomplish my goals more so than anything. And I think our coaches here preach it: the people you're around the most is who you're going to be the average of. So who I was around was not going to get me to where I was, and I really liked those people there, but it wasn't like for like what I wanted out of my wrestling career, what I was looking for. And then once I transferred again, it felt like the same thing. I thought I had found it, but it wasn't. Everybody wasn't bought in from like a administration standpoint to all the way down to the lowest guy on our totem pole in our wrestling team. Everybody wasn't bought in to one goal. And it just like having distractions like that can mess with you. And I think I can block out a lot of things, but that stuff was, I want to say necessarily getting into me, but it was definitely affecting. I just didn't feel like it was me who was there. And finally, once I came to here, it's just been, everybody's bought in because it's Division I, it's the highest level of athletics you can be in. And everybody's there to fight and win. That's our job every day, is going into practice every day to win, to get better, to win. And, I don't put a huge emphasis on winning, as more so it's like another opportunity to get better. As I think I think people create too much pressure by doing that. It's like putting too much winning on emphasis on things instead of putting opportunity growth and stuff like that. I think that's just how you see how you get better, how you can just improve in a lot of things, not just only wrestling. So
now, for those high schoolers out there that are looking to, potentially, wrestle at the Division I level, and I've known a few, some of my, the former big grade greats, you look at Chad Zappital and that crop of athlete. How hard is it? Take us through the grind that is a Division I football, football. I said football. Sorry, guys, it's on the brain. Wrestling. Like a practice. Whether it's off season or whether it's during season. What's it like, the grind?
So our preseasons, is tough. So 2 days we lift 4 days a week. 2 days or 6 in the morning. And on those 6 in the morning, we'll lift for about an hour. Then we'll go out on our football field and do conditioning. And then after that, you have a whole long day of class, depending on what kind of classes you have set up. Depends on your day. Some days, the most I've ever had in a day was 3 classes. And that's probably the most people will take, is about 3 classes a day. And, if you're a high-level business major, don't take classes on Friday here. Just our teachers don't do it. But Tuesday and Thursday, we have afternoon lift, 6 p.m., but there's no running, morning practice on those days. And it's just like Wednesdays, long run. And that's a hard thing about being an app, is that we're in the mountains here. We're about 30, they call it it's elevation 33. It's 3,333 feet above sea level. And we do a lot of long runs, ranging from 3 miles to 6 miles up and down mountains. And that's just was a tough adjustment for me, is being able to push yourself. Like, I didn't know, actually, I thought I was a good wrestler in high school. I really did. I thought, I'm gonna be successful. But coming here, kind of put me in my place to where I was like, I'm not where I am at. And if I gotta change something, or I'm never gonna get to where I was gonna be. It's just being able to handle pain. And that's being able to know the difference between pain and injured and hurt is a big difference in wrestling at the Division I level. I really do think. You got to be able to handle pain and being hurt.
Yeah, and, I think I remember some of those talks. When you were a freshman.
Yeah, I agree. I've definitely from being in high school. I was not the toughest about that kind of stuff. I would complain, and no one wants to hear complainers now. That's what I've grown up to, is 95% of the people, they don't care you got them, and the other 5 probably care that you do have. That's how it is. People, no one cares. And that's just the kind of mentality that I have now. That's where it's like you don't complain about nothing. If something's bothering you, you tell your trainer. You get in there, do rehab, get better. Just keep going forward.
Now, what's the difference between a Coach Johnson high school practice versus an Appalachian State wrestling practice?
So our practices are thing about wrestling in high school. It's no offense to any kids in there. There's a lot of kids who are not at the compete with the highest level. Like me, I won state, so I had a lot more talent than a lot of kids. So I didn't have to the whole time go hard in practice to beat kids. More so be focused in every detail that I do from start to finish for 2 hours. Yeah, I could slack off, doze off of my focus, and because I had a little bit more talent than them, I could just focus through it and get through the practice that way. Well, now when I'm in college, as soon as we put our headgear on right at the bat, it's time to go. We go right at the bat. And it's, 10-minute hard warm-up. We're doing hard drills right at the bat. And you got to be dead focused on what we're doing for 2 hours. And I'm attention to detail. Everything that we do, we're trying to get better. Me and my partner are trying to push each other. And it's, it's war. You're not friends. And then that's the thing that, a lot of people don't understand. It's when you're in our room, it's a war. We're fighting. We're scrapping for every point every day. And it's how you get better. At the end of the day, you slap hands. You're I got better. He got better. That's the only way our team's going to get better, if we're doing that every day. If someone's pushing me, that's what I want from the backups that I have right now. Is any day they can come in when maybe I'm not having my best day, is push me to my limit, make me try to figure it out.
Now I do have your state championship. Standing on the podium. It's been a couple years now. Do you remember what was going on in that? You're not smiling a bit, Brad. You just won the state title. What's going through that head?
At this point, after I won state, the thing is about me is I blacked out during that match. I backed up, took a shot, took him down, blacked out, came back to it. I won the match. It was kind of a weird thing for me. I had never experienced anything quite like that in my life to that point. So it was kind of I just did it. I did something that nobody said that I was going to do. That's what I really thought to myself. And, I definitely cried because it was and it wasn't definitely being hurt. It was definitely the tears of joy. I was very happy for what I did and the commitment I made over a year. And that's the thing. I fully committed to this. That's the most happy thing I could be about, is I just was committed to that goal, was being a state champ. And you can ask the people in my room, Coach White, I was committed, and that was my goal, was to be a state champ. And I did what I had to do in high school to be a state champ. And, I got on the podium, and I was smiling at first. If you go back and watch the video of me, I'm smiling pretty big. But then Coach White, he puts on my medal, and we hug, and I go, I got to make a straight face. And then I stand up, I just tried to make – and I wiped off the smile on my face and was it's time to be serious now.
You don't have to be that serious, man. I've been watching this, the state tournament for years. They got all these guys have these big smiles. Some of them with no teeth, by the way. I got to throw that out there. But anyway, I do have kind of a funny story, and it comes from Harlan Steffensmeyer. He was a state champ, at Fort Madison, and Nick Ott, that group. I remember them telling me that right before you would weigh in. They were just amazed that you would down a Red Bull, okay? I think you might have had two. I don't know. You would down a Red Bull, you would weigh, and then you would down another one, and then you were ready to go. How did you even survive that?
I stopped doing that. I definitely have stopped doing that, but I do remember doing that. And I did that my whole senior year when I was just chugging Red Bulls before, and I would get so amped up that, nothing mattered to me. At that point, I'm if I break my arm, it doesn't matter. The thing is, I'm going to win this match. At that point when I started doing this, I was I'm going to get myself so amped up to wrestle. Nothing's going to stop me. And I'm not going to let nothing stop me.
And I'm not going to call you crazy because, guys like Mark Mormon, TJ Siebold, all those guys, they all have their niche. You know what I'm saying? Rodney Griffin, and the list goes on and on and on, right? You look at, Centerville wrestling, it's predominantly, I mean, Mikey England, I got to throw Mikey out there because, Mikey's this ultimate fighter now, and he still doesn't have his tooth sometimes, and he kind of weirds me out, right? But
Yes.
Ethan Mormon, there's just so many, but everyone has their little quirks. Do you still have a quirk, any right before you go onto the mat?
Yeah, I've kind of changed it more so than this year. I personally, I just came a little bit closer to my faith, so it's like saying a little prayer to myself, and just asking for like just a little strength, any guidance I can have in this match to help me perform to my best of my ability. That's just like something I've really done this whole year. That's kind of just really, that just takes a lot of pressure off me because knowing me, I'm a high strung guy and I'm always thinking about things. I can think myself into things. Like I can put a lot of thoughts in my head. So it just helped me be able to clear what I was doing before I went out there. It helped me kind of just be like, oh, okay, muscle memory, what I train every day to do. Like it just takes over. Just saying this little prayer to myself. And that's just like kind of helps. That's when I know it's go time then.
Yeah. Do you ever hear anybody, or are you so zoned in that you're so focused into your match?
The awkward thing, and I talk about this with my teammates on my team, is that when I'm wrestling, I can hear the most random person. Like if there's just like one random person in the stands, I'll be like, who is that person up there yelling at me? Like I'll be thinking that. And those are just random thoughts that pop up in my head, like sometimes when I'm wrestling, but then I'm just like, okay, I got to get back to doing what I'm doing. But that's, I can hear my coaches. The thing about me is that anytime there's a break in action where the ref stops, I instantly look over to my coaches and just look for any guidance they're going to give me. Like any little keys they tell me to do, and I'll try to implement them in what I'm doing at that point. So,
yeah. Now let's get serious here a little bit because I love wrestling. I always have, and but before we talk about what type of advice you could give some of these wrestlers as they're going to hit districts here next Saturday is first and foremost this. So let's get a little bit serious. How did wrestling save your life?
Yeah, so I came from, a lot of people know this in my town, not the best of family. I've had siblings that were not doing the right things, and that's, that brought a lot of anxiety into my life. It's just like worrying about those kind of things and things that I couldn't control. I was letting those things kind of like weigh me down and put an impact on my life. And that's that kind of stuff I learned over time. It took me a while. It still bothered me even when I won state that year. It even bothered me my first 2 years of college. But once I moved away, it was kind of like, it was like a relief. Like I needed to be myself and worry about like myself foremost. And I hadn't been doing that. Like I had been worrying about a lot of other things in my life going through this point, and going through high school, I never really thought that, college was maybe an opportunity for me right at the bat. But then I was like, if there's going to be one opportunity for me to go to college, it's going to have to be wrestling. And I'm like, I know this is what's going to help me pay for wrestling, what's going to help pay for school. And I know I'm going to have to take a risk on myself because I know no one's going to pay for my school. I know I'm going to have to take out all these loans, but I know that if I do it, it's going to be a high risk, high reward. And that, and that's that. If you're going to bet on somebody, you got to bet on yourself every time. And, I put everything I had into myself. And I'm not trying to be selfish about that because I care about people in my life who've been close and, who's gave me extra motivation along the way and who's act like family to me along the way. And I'll always be grateful to them, and that's, I got a few tattoos on there and it's about that kind of stuff that I've had over time. I got a few tattoos right now and it's just about, being loyal. Like I can give a shout out to like Terry Kozrich. He's really he more so instilled something in me to be great out of myself, to really inspire something great out of myself. And that's something that I will never, will never pay that back. And that's, something I'll always chase. I'm glad it saved me, I'll be able to never get back to wrestling what wrestling gave to me.
Well, I think you will, Brad, because, what wrestling has done for you. And, again, I was removed from your high school career for 3 years. I had you as a freshman. And, what I've seen as far as growth in the last decade out of you, brother, is just truly amazing. And I'm so proud of you, for battling through every bit of adversity and everything that was thrown your way, and for you to land on top. And you know what? We're not done yet, because we're going to talk about this NCAA tournament that's coming up, because I'm sure you have some goals, and people have overlooked you forever, man. But now you have a chance, even to establish that, and even better than that, win, lose, or draw. One thing that you're going to get back, Brad, is you're going to bring back your story, and people are going to see your heart, your desire, and the good person that you become. So never just deflate your ego when it comes to that, because I've seen a tremendous amount of growth, and I'm sure that all of your coaches and everybody that's followed you all the way here, would say the same things.
Yeah, I really appreciate everybody who's been in my life, who's even helped at the smallest bit. And I truly mean that. Anybody who's helped me to move forward, fall forward, and fail forward is someone that those kind of people are the people you need in your life. And I remember, my senior year, I remember this kid in school. He said right before I left for state tournament, he's like, "You're not going to win state." I said, "I'm going to come back with the gold medal, and I'm going to wear it the first day, and I'll wear it on Monday." And literally, I came back wearing my medal. I said, "I told you, this was going to happen." And that's the thing, and I didn't let none of that kind of stuff and let outside factors affect me. And that's just how you got to be, my coach is here, and you can even message and ask them. They call me a delusional person, because I will, if someone may be better, I will literally talk myself into it that I'm way better than them. I think they're trash pretty much. And that's just the way I think now. It's if I got to talk myself into me being superior than them. And then I wrestle my best that way. If I can do that, then it's game over for a lot of people like that.
Well, I've had a lot of coaches throughout the years, whether I've had them as an athlete or whether, I've coached alongside of them, and they say the same things. Hey, they're an 18 to whatever year old, just like you are. They put their pants on just like you are. They get up every day, and a lot of it is mindset. But before I want to make sure that I get plenty of time to discuss this Appalachian State thing, especially things that are coming up, which is a big conference tournament. But I do want to do this for a lot of the Iowa high school athletes that are getting ready to hit the districts this year. Take them through what it was like for you, weighing in at that state tournament, and take us all the way to the freaking, where you're standing on top of that podium when Whitey smacks you in the back of the head, right?
Yeah. So I remember this is a fun story, because I even tell some people I had really long hair, and a lot of people know me for that. Going into my senior year, I had hair down to right here in my back, and I wore a headband in football, so everybody knew I had long hair. And going in the first day, the head of the athletic board person, Alan Bestie, I think his name is, made me cut my hair myself.
What?
He gave me a pair of scissors, and he made me cut my hair. So then I cut my own hair in the weigh-ins over a trash can. It looked god-awful. And literally, I went out there. That's the only thing I was worrying about for 30 minutes. I was like, this man made me cut my hair. I was sitting there, after weigh-ins. I was like, no way. I'm like, I can't believe this guy made me do this. But then, I went out there, and, years passed. I had so much. I was so nervous. I was legs shaking, knees weak, arms heavy, Eminem style. That was me. I was not good. I was not in a good place at all. But the thing is that my junior year, the first I won a match. I went 1-2. I beat the kid who placed 8th. And I knew that. I was like, you know what? And I'm up 2 weight classes that year. And I was like, oh, I can be a state place winner if I dedicate myself to this. So once I got into that state tournament mode, I was like, I was confident in what I was doing. I was like, okay, first match, went out there. I think I took the kid down maybe 3 times in the first period, kept cutting him, cradled and pinned him in the first period. And he was ranked, I don't know, maybe 10, 9 at the time or something like that. Next match, the next day, I slept pretty good, woke up, and weight was never a problem at this point. I had done the weight cut before. My body was definitely acquainted to my weight, so it's never cutting weight. So the quarterfinals, I wake up, even more motivated than I was the first day. I was like, this is an opportunity for me to go place. So then, I went out there and majored them 14-1. And, the one thing I did in that match was I did a lot of things that I usually don't do to win. And that's what made it fun for me, is doing things when someone puts you outside your comfort zone, you still win by a big margin, because that means it really picks your brain. But then I went out to eat, and then I started getting nervous because I was in the semifinals. So then I was trying to fight away these nerves, and I was warming up, and I was like, "Oh God, this might be the biggest match of my life to this point." So then I'm like, warming up. I go out there. I remember I was watching the Minnesota and some duel the night before on TV, and I saw this kid hit this move, overhook fireman's carry. Not a good move for me, because that's just not who I am. And I do it, and I go to my back. I bench press him off my back to his back. I get a reversal, and I was like, okay, now we're dialed in. Now we're ready to wrestle. We already went to our back once. It's all right. And then I won. I got escaped, took him down again, and really dominated it from the match from there on. And then going into the finals, I thought that, I was like, hey, I have nothing to lose at this point. But then I was way nervous than I was even for the semifinals. That wasn't good. I warmed up, and I threw up 5 times.
Oh.
I was not feeling so good. And I was like, this is not good. I was like, and I'm a person who has to listen to the music before I wrestle, kind of like drown out the noise from everybody else. And I was listening to music, but before that, I couldn't. Like before this match, I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand up, so I just sat in a chair in the hallway in the back. Didn't do nothing. I just sat there and looked at the ground, and the coaches go, "It's your turn." I go, "All right, let's go do this thing." I go out there, and I was warming up, and I wore the same shirt. And I still have this shirt in my closet to this day, right now, and it says, "What's it say?" I'd have to find it real quick because I have a lot of clothes now.
You're good.
Yeah, but it's some Cage Fighter shirt. It had some quote on it, and I really liked the quote, whatever it said. And I remember taking it off. I was like, it's go time now. And he went double post up. I literally lowered my level and just did my normal sweep. Took him down right at the bat. He tried to scramble a little bit, took him down, blacked out. And I just don't really remember what happened after that. And, next thing you know, when I started to come back to it, he chose top, and I was winning 4-0 in his third period. I look over in my corner, I go, I done won this match. Literally, I was so confident. I'm like, there's no way this kid's going to turn me. Because I maybe had been turned once that year by who's now the starter for Mizzou at 157. I wrestled twice that year. He's pretty tough. And, I literally didn't do nothing on bottom. And it made our coaches mad in the corner. It made Coach White mad that I did not get away. Even in the state finals, I won 4-1 to get one stalling point. He was mad, real mad at me after that. But if you watch that video of me, I was overcame with emotion at that point. Because I was like, I did this, I accomplished my goal. That's my highest goal, not just my daily goal. It was my long-term goal at my highest level. That's what kind of brought the emotion to me, was accomplishing my highest goal at that time. And I ran around the mat, held up once, was crying. A lot of people give me a hard time about it. I was crying real bad. But then I jumped in Coach White's arms, and I went in the back, and they're trying to interview me. I gave Briar Cochran a hug. He had been one of my training partners growing up, and he's he's a close guy in my life, and I really appreciated what he had done and what he still does. And I gave him a hug, and I was very happy as I was still crying. I had to get it together because there's the few KCCI and stuff were doing interviews, so I had to do that. And then I went back I put on all my warm ups, went over to the podium, and I was good then. I was like, what, I did it. I'm happy. I'm talking to the kid who got third. He's probably upset, but he's like, we should have wrestled in the finals. And I go, I won. So that's all that matters now. And I was talking with that, and then I got on the podium, and that's when that's the best feeling right there. Wrestling that match was fun, but getting on that podium, being on top, is the best feeling that you can have right there.
And I remember, I almost jinxed it because I think I messaged you and said, hey, you're ranked second, so you better make it.
Yeah. The thing about that is that I was like, you know what? I've never been ranked in my life this year. I had been ranked 5th and 7th and whatever all year long, but then I was number 2. And I was like, you know what? I probably am number 2 for the people I'm beating because I had won a lot of good matches that year. And I was very confident in myself. That you said, the Fort Madison kid, I wrestled one Fort Madison kid 3 times in a week, or 4 times in a week. He beat me the first time, and I beat him the next 3. Like, I was like, you know what, I'm not letting this end. You know, he ended up placing state, and I wrestled him once in college and beat him again. You know, he's tough. He's a tough kid. You know, I always respected scrapping with him. I always thought I was small. I always thought I was a small kid for my weight, but every kid's like, no, you are a jacked kid.
That's it's truly awesome. Now, what advice are you going to give those kids as they get ready to do theirs? I mean, yeah, and it can even be as simple as a 3-word quote.
You know, the thing that I live by now is if anything matters, everything does. And that's something you got to live your life by. And that's, some of my teachers, one of my teachers here, gives this thing. It's called a moral compass. You have to do it. It's like on all his tests. And he was a smart guy. He started this bank called down here called BBT. He was like a part of like their starting whatever. He's a real smart guy, extremely smart guy. And he like talked about like the 5 things that matter to you most. Keep them in your wallet too. And like that's what I put, and that's like something I do now. Like my 5 most important things in my life at this moment, or they remind me every day that like this is what I'm doing. This is what like I'm living for. I need to strive for these things to be the best at them. And I think that's like if I and I want to get back to wrestling. I would definitely want to be a youth club, and that's something I want to teach the kids that I coach. Is definitely stuff like that. Is like if anything matters, everything does. Have the 5 most important things in your life at that point, and change them periodically. The same things that are important to me now are not going to be important to me in 5 years, necessarily. They're going to change, and that's fine, but you're always trying to get better every day. And that's like what I would tell my kid. I tell the high schoolers, even the kids I worked with this year that are on the high school team from doing camps. That's what I still tell them when they message me. Like, got any advice for me? Like, yes, you got to treat everything the same. If anything matters, everything does. And your 5 most important things, utilize it. Use that and try to get better.
Now, you opened up a can of worms. What are your 5 most important things?
In my life right now?
Yeah.
Being the best student I can.
Okay.
Being the best wrestler I can.
Mm-hmm.
Giving back to wrestling.
Okay.
Right now. This one's getting closer to faith, and, right in my nightstand, I got a Bible, an FCA book. I read it. Try to read about 2 pages whenever I can when I'm not doing schoolwork, and just try to get a little bit more involved with my faith a little bit. And the last one's kind of tough for me right now, but it says being the first person in my first person in my name to graduate from college. And it's something that's gonna change soon. And I'm excited for it, but it just that kind of like that's the one that brings me the most chills to my back more so than any of them. So.
You deserve every bit of that, buddy, and you know what I mean. And I know right now your whole body's probably tingling. Even thinking about that, right? The finality of it. Let's talk about here. This college wrestling, this conference tournament, and definitely. You know what? I'm gonna minimize this because I want you to show everybody your bling, man.
Oh, my bling? All right, let me throw these things on.
Whoops.
They're big.
Okay. And I know people on Spreaker can't see it, but these are like there's a pinky ring that looks like a Super Bowl ring, and then he's got 2 on there. Now, tell us a story about each one of those.
So I'll start with my index one because that's my first one here. So it says right on the side, if you look at it, it says 3-time. It says 16, 17, 18, SoCon champs. On the other side, it says my name right there. In the inside, it says our record, or it says 3-time conference champions, 20-1. So over the last 3 years, we were 20-1 at that time in our conference. So we had not lost very much, to say the least. And, that year, that was my first year here. We went undefeated in the conference that year. We beat every team. But I wasn't in the lineup that year. My first 2 years here at App, I quite wasn't, into the mold that they were trying to put me in. I kind of, resisted it for a while because I thought I was all gung-ho and who I was. But then, year 2, last year, about a year ago around this time, I had a talk with the coaches, And it kind of just like changed me, and that's when I was like, you know what do I got to lose? I'm not an All-American right now. Like, what do I have to lose if I do everything they say to my best ability? And, I did that, and I'm still doing that. And, and I've got a lot better over this year, mentally, physically with my diet. I can't, at that point I was weighing 165, I was cutting terrible weight, terrible style weight. And, now I weigh 45 at most and I wrestle 41. I don't cut no weight.
And you even you ate some Outback Steakhouse, right? Here recently?
Yeah, I ate steak and a lobster tail tonight, and some mixed vegetables. And that's the thing, I try to eat. I'm on weight gain, so the thing about being, and this is what I'll mention to these kids. The thing about being wrestling Division One is that we have this thing called App Fuel here, and it's where all athletes get snacks, orange juice, like oatmeal, beef jerky, cereal, chocolate milk, like a bunch of different like vitamins. What else? Protein shakes after lift. I can go on. We have a performance nutritionist on our staff, so she made me a diet. I followed this diet. When I was making this deficit down the weight to make sure my weight was good, I had a insane amount of deficit a day. Probably 900 calories a day. I was only eating about anywhere between 1,200 and 1,500 calories a day of clean food on the way down. But then I got to the point where I was losing too much weight. So then I was weighing, I wrestled 41. Some days out of practice, I'll weigh 38. And, that's just a little too low. So now I'm back on like the weight gain. so I get more snacks, and, I'm eating, like, you look at my drawer right beside my bed, I got like cashews in it, like tablespoons of peanut butter to eat like right before I go to bed. Stuff like that, just to keep sure my weight's good and recovering right. And, I drink BCAAs that they give us and stuff like that. I try to stay with it, but that's honestly been my app career. And then my second ring here, this is my most recent one. And this one, my second ring here, this one was crazy. So we had a 3-way tie for first, and we beat Chattanooga. Chattanooga beat Campbell. Campbell beat us. There was a lot of things going on that year for our team. It just quite wasn't like a good culture, maybe per se, and there's a few kids that had negativity, and those kids left, and I'm still friends with those kids, but our culture now is something to reckon with. Like, I feel for the end of this year and what we've been building to is I feel bad for the teams we're wrestling, because we're all bought into one goal, and it's to get better and to win. And that's just the good part about being on a good team. And I never was on any sort of good team ever.
Well,
high school. Actually, my golf team was pretty good, I will say. But
now, take us. You got the conference tournament. Is it next week or the week after?
My conference tournament isn't until March 8th.
Okay.
So I have a duel this Thursday against Campbell, and it's 6-0 against 6-0. It's for all the marbles, and that's exciting. And it's about doing the same preparation that we had done the whole year for every other match the same way. Preparing the same way and not getting too high, but not getting too low. It's just the same thing, and going out there and doing our thing. That's just like, that's tough to preach to a high schooler. I think sometimes is being able to know that skill is just, you don't got to prepare different, even for these upcoming weeks in state. Like, there's no different than what you've already been doing. Like, what the training you've been doing is what's going to take care of the rest of the year.
Who's
the training? Go on.
Who's this guy you're going to wrestle on Thursday? What's his record versus your record? I mean, what's his head-to-head going to look like?
I have no idea. I think he's 6-0 in conference too. We're both undefeated in conference, so I think it's a battle for the first seed in our conference.
Well, if he sits down and he drinks that Red Bull before he goes out, just remember, you don't need Red Bull anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'll be like, okay, you want to get crazy? I'll get crazy. Like I say, you John challenge someone who's even crazier than you ever thought of. So I'll tell him.
Will your wrestling meet? Will it be? Is it like being streamed or anything like that?
Yeah, it'll be on online. It might be on ESPN Plus. Some of our duels, like last weekend on Saturday, is on ESPN Plus. I don't know if this one will be yet. I will be retweeting like a link
Okay.
We'll have like the stream to it, no doubt, on my Twitter and my Facebook. I'll share it and stuff for people who anybody wants to watch back home. So.
Yeah, and definitely be sure to tag us. Can you believe that we only have like 5 minutes left? It's crazy how fast it goes. Crazy.
That was fast.
Well, but you know what? After you make the NCAA tournament, we'll get you back on so we can discuss, what's coming down the hatch,
My goals, what I have in my locker right now, the thing about that is that we have nice facilities. Got a 3-mat wrestling room, cardio area. We have a pole machine, so I back work. And I wish I would have took this serious in high school. It's weightlifting.
Yeah.
I didn't, and you could probably say that. I never went to weightlifting, and I never did nothing like that my freshman year. And I didn't do that, but we take weightlifting serious here, and I'm glad I do now. And you could probably tell in some of my pictures about it now.
Yeah. You look a little thicker,
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm thicker, but I weigh about the same I did in high school. That's just like shows, like, hey, I put on proper muscle.
Yes. Well, have you ever seen that Genovea or Nathaniel? His legs.
Oh, Giovanni?
Holy crap! His legs.
Yeah, he's a short little thing, about 5 foot tall.
Okay, I didn't know how tall, but I do notice that everybody goes up against him like a tree. Here before we leave, Brad, definitely share any shout outs you want to shout out to anybody out there. Any last words? Anything good here? And I've really appreciated having you on, and I'll definitely have you on here in the near future.
I'd like to give my boy Caden Cosner a shout out, man. Number 1 in the state, going at it. I wanted to repeat my weight. You can do that. That's just something that's the weight that I was at too when I won, and I feel like he has. I preach a lot of things. I talk to him too. I preach a lot of things. This is the opportunity, and that's something that is a good way to handle pressure on you. Is to think of it not as you have to do something, more so as you get the opportunity to do it. That just relieves so much pressure in your life, man. It's like lifts. You can just feel that kind of stuff lift off your shoulders when you say it to yourself, And I think positive reinforcement and visualization are keys to ways to winning. You got to visualize that moment of you getting your hand raised in the ways you did it every day, And a lot of people ask me what's going through my mind like throughout the day. And, it's just I'm being honest with you. It's just me executing the stuff that I'm good at when I'm wrestling, like all day long. Like, when I'm doing my homework, I focus on my schoolwork. But when I'm not, I'm walking around. I'm like, you know what? I got to do this better. I got to do this to win. I got to do this to win. Like, I need to move my feet. I need to move my hands and stuff like that. And all day long just to really I'm more obsessed with, like, ways to get better than I've ever been in my life. So I'd like to give a shout out to all my people back home and people who've been close to me. And thank you for having me on here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And for everybody else, 2 for the Road tonight, 8 p.m. Central, here in about an hour and 20 minutes or so. We're going to have Coach Kosrich, Coach Doherty, Coach Swanson, and myself. We're going to be talking about the new football districts. You're not going to want to miss that show. But, Brad, hey, man, I'll be rooting for you. I'll probably be shooting you a message saying, hey, you need to get this NCAA tournament and start flying, buddy. But I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.